It's a thrill. It's an honor to be here today. I'm very excited. I've prepared this message for a long time. I love to talk about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. My dog's heard this message so many times on our morning walk. She said enough's enough today, you know. But I'm excited to be here with you. This is going to be a two-part message today. And my goal is to get you in the small groups today because that's where the action really happens. That's where men bond with each other and really get to know each other. Sometimes we end up going into large group discussion, and those are great too sometimes. But the small groups is really where you get to meet other men and get to spend time with them, get to know them a little better, get a man to tell you his story, and that's what it's all about, right? So let's open in prayer this morning, okay? Father God, I want to thank you on behalf of all the volunteers and council for all the men that came in this morning. Lord, there's so much around us which causes fear, so much around us that just seems wrong. And but we know every minute of every day we can count on you because you alone are the truth. And if we keep our eyes fixed squarely on you, Lord, we don't need to worry. We don't need to fret because you have always taken care of us. You've always been for us there in the past, the present, and you will be in the future. On that we can rely. So it's in your precious name we ask these things and tell you we love you. Amen. Thanks, guys. So, let me ask a question. How many of you were with us at our very first meeting in October of 2018? Well, thank you. Thank you for that. You know, life's transitory. People come, people go, move, and, we see that all the time. And one of the things I'll talk about today is I'm going to be going through history briefly of what we do. And things change. But so many men are still watching online, and God continues, even in the times of pandemic, to have this ministry grow worldwide. But I want you to all know, and I got to talk to a few of you this morning, how grateful I personally am for all of you coming, being here today, coming to all the different meetings we have. So the two-part meeting today, every year we talk about health and fitness in January. It was funny, at the Bible study on Thursday, I asked the guys, how many of you are satisfied with your health and fitness and food program? So out of 22 guys, how many hands do you think went up? Two. Exactly, two. So we all have work to do. And the Bible tells us, of course, that our bodies are a temple. God gave us these amazing bodies. And I believe he gave us these bodies to serve him. It took me a long time to realize that. Did everybody get their hand out today? I want to make sure everybody has a handout. If you didn't, just raise your hand and we'll get that for you. Because that's really important what we're going to talk about today. This handout might look familiar to some of you, but it's been changed. I updated for today. I'm only going to spend about 2 or 3 minutes on it because the main focus of our health and fitness part is going to be next week. I have a great health professional coming in that we've gotten named Scott Mitchell. He's wonderful, and he's a great bio, and he's going to come in and talk to us a lot more about health. But what I gave you today is something I'd like you to study, take home, go over it with your families, and I'm going to put this link for this document today when you get your email at noon that'll have this video. This will be there, so you can forward this if you'd like to other people. So let's quickly go over it. On the front, you'll see obviously the mission statement at the top, and then you see a lot of great scriptures. I'd like you to look those up as homework, and I think you'll be very impressed by those. Then the pyramid is very important. The pyramid shows the least things are obviously at the top of the pyramid that you should be eating, and the best things are at the bottom. Let's flip it over. On the back, there are some tremendous resources there. Iron Sharpens Iron doesn't actually endorse any of those, but knowledge is power. Who would agree that knowledge is power? And the more that you learn, the more you can make informed decisions. So there's some great sites on there. It's been updated with what's been going on, obviously, in our country. The basic thoughts halfway down, I think, are very, very good. Now, I want to spend one minute, and only 1 minute, talking about COVID. COVID has changed everything in the world for the last 2 or 3 years. We all have to do our own research. I would say don't rely on any one site, any one organization. But I did give you at the very bottom there under COVID resources, what I call mainstream resources, the CDC, the National Institutes of Health, and the World Health Organization. And then there's another one under that called FLCCC, the Frontline Doctors. That's more alternative. I encourage you all to look at these and decide how you're going to take care of yourself, because in this age of pandemic, which I believe is going to continue in different ways, different mutations, all kinds of things, your best defense, and unfortunately our government doesn't talk about it, and I'm not being political, is prevention. It's prevention. And so we talk about that also in the basic thoughts here. But I want to show you one quick thing, then I'm going to move on to our past, present, and future. So does anybody know what this little thing is that fits on your finger? Pulse oximeter. And it measures your oxygen saturation in your blood. I believe this little $20 device is critical for every single person, every home in the age of COVID. Give you just an example. My sister 2 weeks ago had a cold for a week, and then she got worse, and then she got tested, and she had COVID in California. I said, what's your pulse ox? Because this shows you your oxygen saturation should be between 90 and 100. And shows your pulse also. And they didn't have one. And they went out and got one that night, and her husband called me back and said, she's at 72. So she had waited far too long, and it's the lungs is where people really die from COVID and COVID pneumonia. So she had to go into, mine's at 97 right now. When I got home from the hospital with COVID, it was in the high 80s. And I still had a lot of work to do to get back to this. But this is indispensable for you to know if you're really being really affected. And obviously you can get it on Amazon or wherever. I just want to bring that and show that to you, okay? So health and fitness, I can only tell you, the guys that go to the gym with us in the morning, we like to say every step, every rep is a gift from God, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. And you never know if you're going to get to enjoy tomorrow with your family and your kids, but you got to take the best care of your health. How many of you in the room, if you want to say, and a year ago, no one wanted to admit they had COVID. How many of you have had COVID? Okay, there you go. The rest of you, God's protected you. Continue to protect yourself. Okay? All right, let's talk about iron sharpens iron, because I get very excited about this. Yes? There you go. Yeah. And no medications. And that's Dan Sarver, a wealth of health information. If you need to ever talk to anybody, that's our friend Dan. So our ministry obviously is based on Proverbs 27:17. You guys have heard this before. And we do have a lot of new guys with us today. And that is, iron sharpens iron and one man sharpens another, so no man walks alone. When men walk alone, they always get in trouble, don't they? The Bible's very clear in Genesis when God said it's not good for man to be alone, so he created community. So men would have other men. But men, as you've heard me say before when I talked about priorities, withdraw in their shells, they go into isolation, and that's when they get in serious trouble. So this all started because I had no mentor growing up, and I didn't realize that until I was in my 40s. And when I finally realized I didn't ever have a mentor, it really knocked me down. I was very, very upset about it. My kids were 1 and 3 at the time. And after I got over my little pity party for a couple days, I decided I was never going to meet another man that didn't have somebody to talk to. And I got in a small group up in Colorado, and I was with the same guys for 15 years. Same 7 guys. Not at 8 o'clock in the morning, not at 7, but at 6 in the morning. And it was awesome. And we had a rule. And the rule was that if you were in town and you weren't sick and didn't have a pressing work engagement, you came. And I believe that any group that doesn't have strong leadership and an agenda is never going to make it. Anyone agree with that? If you start talking about sports and everything else and politics and everything, your group is not going to move forward. I'm talking about groups like ours. So I decided to be in that small group for a long time, and I learned so much because we're all works in progress. And guys kept knocking on the door. We were meeting at a DoubleTree hotel, and they kept saying, I want to be in this group. I've heard about this group. And I said, it's a closed group because trust takes time. And so after 15 years, we decided to open 1 day a month to have other men come in who weren't in the group. And we were flooded. And I realized then we were just filled the room, that's where the focus really should go. So we hooked up with an outfit called Masters Men that's worldwide. As some of you know, we're a Masters Men affiliate. They pray for us all over the world. They're in many countries. They have 3,500 chapters in India. So they're praying for us too. So we started up in Durango 10 years ago, and that's still going very strong there. They pray for you guys, and we thank you for praying them. They've had a really tough run up there with COVID also. Came down to Arizona. I figured the time was done there. I realized now it was God's prodding me to come down here, so we picked up and moved down here with our kids, and prayed for almost a year about starting this ministry, because I didn't see any men's ministries like this, and men really, really need it. Our friend Tom Grote here, Tom, you've shared this story. Tom went through cancer about, 4 or 5 years ago? And he prayed for a men's group, a Christian men's group that he could be with his cancer, but God then brought iron sharpens iron. And that's just, when I hear stories like that, I know it was worth, obviously, the journey coming down. So we came down. I prayed for a great group of guys like David's mighty men to be leaders, to help, and we prayed for over 6 months together before we started. And they were called the Servants Council. We designed the mission statement, which Dan will put up here. Everything we do, keeping in line with the mission statement, which is to encourage and empower men to be excellent, not just good, excellent for Christ at home, work, and in the community. And you see that every week. You see this on the emails. You see it everywhere we go. So if someone asks you what we're about, I just always tell them about the top to begin with, because I don't want to overwhelm them. But when we started, it's very interesting. We were turned down by several facilities where we wanted to meet because they didn't allow prayer. And we had to, thanks to Dan Sarver, we got some legal help. Took over a year, and we now have it so those particular facilities nationwide now accept prayer groups. So that's another amazing thing that God did. But we finally found a place to start over in Vistancia, and it was very rudimentary at the beginning. No audiovisual. We were crammed in one place, no special place for coffee. Restrooms were outside. But it was a great place. We couldn't believe we were together. And I remember so many of your faces coming in when you first walked in, and I said, there's something really special going on here that guys hadn't seen before. And we went to outside speakers because we didn't know who God was going to bring into the room, who we had, the anointing of you that he brought in. And we're seeing that develop more and more and more. So our early topics were on health, obviously, and wellness, men needing community for small groups, how to get a man to tell you his story, which is a key portion of what we do, treasuring your wife, building up others instead of yourself. I remember when Shah did a great presentation on that. Dave Bowman did great leaders of the Bible. We did fatherhood, cherishing your family, ministering in your workplace, being a godly man. What does being salt and light really look like? And then we developed the priorities video that you've heard about, how God's first and all the other things come after that. So that was all in the first year, and it was pretty exciting stuff. And then COVID hit. And they closed that facility, and we were able to get a Zoom license, and we went on Zoom. What the enemy, I believe, meant for evil was to close churches, close personal freedoms, close groups like ours, but God prevailed, and we never closed. Zoom was great. I don't really like it, but it forced us to learn skills during COVID. So we're looking at the bright side here. But before I get into the great things I think that's been achieved, I like to talk about things we could do better. Because I think in any organization, especially military or something like that, you have to debrief. You have to know what you could do better. So I'll share that. This isn't a criticism of any one person. If anything, the buck falls with me. Originally, we wanted our small groups. We were in tables, and we had a small group leader, and you had 4 or 5 guys with you. And I had hoped that we would have the same guys every week in those groups. And those groups were powerful. I'll tell you something really cool. I wasn't going to go off on tangents here today, but I can't help it because I love the topic. I love you guys. The first day, there was a table. I remember Armando was sitting at it. Larry Martin was sitting at it, who has COVID right now. Pray for Larry. And Larry's wife, Gail, had just been diagnosed with kidney cancer, terminal. And sitting at that table was our friend Armando, who had been through the same thing, at that same table. And a fellow named Rick Brady, who watches online all the time, he's a nurse who takes care of kidney patients. And this is who God put at that table. The problem we run into that we found here, and it also happens in Colorado, is it's kind of like church. The average man, even though our email mailing list is over 450 people now, the average man attends church 1.5 to 1.75 times a month and attends Iron Sharpens Iron about the same. So I know guys are busy. I appreciate that, and that's why we took the extra step to put everything online for you. But that's what happens. So we really need, I believe, if you can come, guys, you need to come. Not just for yourself, but to sharpen others. And then go home and share it with your family. We've also been, we could do a lot better in evangelism. How many of you guys, when you first came to Iron Sharpen Iron, already knew of Jesus and already had a relationship of some type with Jesus? Almost everybody. So you see, we still really need to do that. Now, even though evangelism is not in our mission statement, and as Don Wilson said, getting younger men is not in our mission statement, they're important. And since we moved to this location, our demographic came down over 10 years, which is great. And so for you guys under 80, we're really glad to see you all. My dog gave me that one. But anyway, my point is, we need to do a better job as a team in looking around our neighborhoods, looking in our workplaces. And, I'm sitting in a church every week that I love. They talk about Iron Sharpens Iron all the time in the Bible. But how many times do we go up to a guy at church and say, I go to this great group called Iron Sharpens Iron, why don't you join me? A lot of guys are pretty shy about it. I'm not shy anymore because I realize I work for the King. That just came to me this week. I shared that with Dave Bowman. I said, we work for the King. And so I told my wife this morning, I said, I'm just going to show you guys briefly how I do it with our business card. And she goes, oh, no, please don't do that. Every time she tells me don't do something, I do it anyway. And it works okay. So I'm going to show you this real quick. So let's say, especially here in the Four Corners, guys are everywhere. We got Lowe's, we got Home Depot, we got Fry's, we got Mountainside Fitness. I mean, we got everything. So if I see a guy, especially at a restaurant, sitting with a family or something, and they look like, they're getting along pretty well and everything's great, I'll just go up and drop my card in front of them and I say, this is something I go to for guys. It's fantastic. It helps me. Maybe it'll help you. And I just leave it. That's it. Have a good day. Anybody can do that, right? And then occasionally they'll say, well, tell me more. You guys, they tell me more, right? And I don't want to overwhelm him with, well, we have 2 Bible studies on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have this. I don't want to overwhelm him with that. So I just tell him the first sentence of the mission statement. We're a men's group that encourages and empowers guys to be excellent for Christ at home, at work, and in the community. If you want to know more, I say, just write the email address down here. We'll get you all the information. And then what I love is when I turn around and walk away, I see the wife giving them the elbow. You need to go to that. I see it all the time. But it's that simple. It's really that simple, guys. We've also, one of the other things we haven't done super well is we have men who are still dealing, and we talked about this a lot, with their issues of pride. We got to hit the issue of pride more. Pride prevents us from really achieving God's full potential for us, I believe. We don't have political disagreements here, which is great. And otherwise, more guys we hope would give their testimonies. I think some guys think their testimony has to be, well, I started at age 3 and here I am today, and now I love Jesus and this and that. A testimony could be about a guy you met on the street last week. It could be 2 or 3 minutes. And I think one of the great things is so many of you have learned how to talk in front of other people without being afraid anymore and share your stories. And that is just so gratifying. But what I really want to focus on in my remaining few minutes is the successes of Iron Sharpens Iron, because myself and the council get to know all of them, and they're just incredible stories. I mean, when a guy like Frank Lopez stands up here and tells us he has kidney cancer and he has this and that, and the guys are all praying for him. He's never had that kind of thing before. When a fellow like our friend Joe Hertel says to me today, I had a spot on my kidney and we were really worried about it. You guys were all praying for him. I just found out it's not there. It's nothing. We hear these stories all the time. Our friend Steve Stroh, I don't believe, is here with us this morning. Let me tell you about Steve. Who knows Steve? Steve was diagnosed just a little while ago with pancreatic cancer, terminal. And then he went through a lot of, and he lost his wife this year also. We have several men in our ministry who've lost their wives in this last year. And they came here for consolation. They came here for love. That's what it really is. Anyway, so last week I was working with a great guy who was having some trouble with fear and trust, and Steve they all of a sudden had a terrible downturn in his treatment, and they said his chemo wasn't working. He was going to have all new chemo, and he could barely walk when he came in. So Sean and I prayed for him last week, and then I realized the fellow that was waiting to talk to me, who better to talk to him than Steve? Because Steve feels because his time is short now, he's on a total ministry and a mission from God. And he spent an hour and a half with this young man, and both of them told me it was absolutely life-changing. These are the things that are happening in Iron Sharpens Iron. When a guy comes in the door and has an addiction, and 2 years later, he's free of it, and another guy comes in with the same addiction, and we can pair them together, and the one fellow says to the other, I can promise you there's hope in Jesus, and I'm going to walk through this with you. These are the great things about iron sharpening iron. That's right. So I'm going to just run down these successes pretty quick. They might overlap, but I really am just so proud of you guys. This isn't about me. This is all about the work of God. Successes since our inception and in 2021. You're in the Word of God more. Individual prayers are answered. We now have this great prayer ministry that's on your Facebook page and on the emails every week. It's posted on Thursdays, and you see all the prayer requests that are coming in the ministry, not just during the Bible studies, but you can pray for people, and people are being prayed for around the world. And back to health and fitness, almost all of those are related to health. We have seen addictions overcome. We have grief and PTSD resources now, and our friend Joe Hertel will be speaking on that February 5th. We, like I said, overcame prejudices from non-believers that wouldn't let us meet. That's huge, guys. And to have places all over the country that can now meet because we took a stand for the Lord. The Bible study is something that I'm just absolutely thrilled about. I was never a Bible study guy, I'm being honest. I have a little ADD, I don't know if you can tell. And I guess that's what it is. That's what the teachers probably would have said. I love the Bible studies. And I know not everybody can come, but they're interactive and they're exciting. The Bible has come alive for me. And this last year, we've been in Matthew for almost a year. Can you imagine that? A year. You start 1 Corinthians on Tuesday. But a lot of you I know can't come to Bible study because it's at 7 in the morning here, and the identical one on Thursday is a trilogy. So I'm really excited to announce, after much prayer, that our friend Steve Coulter, Steve, where are you? I'd like you to stand up so everybody can see you. This is Steve Coulter. Say good morning to Steve, guys. Steve's spoken before here. He does a great. He's going to be leading a discipleship ministry for ISI. And it's one step, I think, in addition to a great Bible study for guys that can't come. You will be able to have individual discipling by another man. And, I was praying about this a long time, and all of a sudden I got guys I was talking to, I'd like to be a discipler. I'd like to be a discipler. And then men coming up, I want to be discipled because I can't come on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Steve's going to speak about that February 12th. And then we'll be starting that ministry hopefully a few weeks thereafter. So if you really want to go deeper and really want to get to know the Lord, one-on-one with a great man of God is the way to do it. So I'm really excited. That's a huge for our ministry. Facebook page, have to talk to you about that. Our Facebook page started off, Shah took great care of that. Every day there's a devotion on it, and guys are writing in about what Lord's doing in their lives. We have over 205 members now on our Facebook page. And we post our video every Saturday on there, and prayer requests also. I talked to you about our email list of 450 people. We have what's called an open rate. That's how many people open your emails. Usually that's between 17 and 22% in most businesses, things like that. Our open rate is close to 50%. So that lets me know that it's worth what we've spent on the videos and other things, so that guys, even if they can't come, they're still hearing. Because there are men everywhere operating in isolation, especially during COVID. COVID has caused so much mental anguish and addiction. It's just been a horrible thing. So I'm grateful to all of you for enabling us to do audiovisual, and the person who's really spurned that and done such a wonderful job is Danny Tellis. Danny, thank you for that. Let's hear it for Danny, guys. I want to show you briefly, because I hear this all the time. I don't like to talk about money at our ministry. The first couple of years, our ministry was funded by a couple of really wonderful donors and by the Servants Council. We all put some money in occasionally to keep it going. But people ask me all the time, how do I donate? So I want to show you real quickly, and then I don't want to talk about money anymore. Our financial guy is Joel in the front. He's the money guy, so no. Danny has a sample of the email you received this week. Every week, I know some of you just see it in your subject line and you don't go any further. But I want to quickly go down our typical email. It tells you what's coming up this week. And then he's going to scroll down. And it shows what's coming up over the next month. So you can see, in case you want to invite. I want to go back up for a second, Danny. We have that great 2-day Wild Heart event, a Friday night and Saturday. It's going to have food on Friday night. It's going to be really, really excellent. Our friend here, Joel Byer, and myself, on February 19th, I'm going to speak on estate planning and documents to leave your loved ones prepared. How many of you have a will, a simple will? How many of you have powers of attorney for health care? Okay. How many of you have final arrangements for your family? How many of you have a list of every single thing your loved ones should do if you should be in the hospital like I was or messed up? I'm going to give you all that stuff. It's all going to be in that session. And then Joel's going to speak on a lot of the clients he's had who didn't have any of the stuff and just the tragedy that was put on their family because of it. Let's go down a little more. For new people, anytime they ask me about our ministry, I send them these emails, tells them where we meet, times, all that. But what I really wanted to show you, Dave's famous coffee, of course. By the way, let's thank our barista, Dave, and his associates, Gunny and Patrick. Can't deal without the coffee. And there's those links that you can always go to Facebook or YouTube where all our stuff is. You always have a financial report so you know where we are. But here are the links I really wanted to show you. And there's one there that's for donations. So if you want to learn how to donate, you just click it. It gives you one of the 5 choices: cash, check, Venmo, GoFundMe, Zelle, and that's down at the bottom. And it has the names of all the guys on the Servants Council. I want to welcome Danny Tellez to the Servants Council. Danny, thank you. It's good to have you with us, buddy. And of course, Scott Lehman, Shaw, Larry Trigg and Larry Martin both served for 3.5 years, and they both stepped down in December. So we want to thank them. But I want you to be aware of the email because everything you need to know is there. Most guys have never scrolled down, so they don't understand. When you click those links, it takes you to my Google Drive and opens those up for you, so all those documents are there. Okay, let's get back to it. We did a fundraiser because we're talking about money in 2020. We had never asked for money before, and you guys were so incredibly generous. And we wanted to do it so we could improve our audio-visual. That not only did we do that, but we raised $1,000 for Discovery Point Church in 2020. And they were so thrilled to receive that from you guys. I can't even tell you. They opened up just this last year to us to over 150 meetings we had in 2021 here. So we did not do a fundraiser for Iron Sharpens Iron because you were so generous in 2020, but we did do one this last Christmas for the church here. And you folks so generously, through God's provision, donated $1,350 to Discovery Point Church. So we also have the major upgrade of our AV technology, 3 dedicated audiovisual team members. We found more speakers, and they're trained from our very midst. Fellowship has been gained. Friendships have been made. What I love is going out during the week and go to a coffee shop or go here and see guys from Iron Sharpened Iron sitting together, meeting together outside. That's what it's all about. We started a first Friday of every month lunch at the Cross-Eyed Cricket over in Vistancia. So that's where we can get together. We've also helped guys who wanted to get baptized. That's not one of our main functions, but we attend those for guys that want to go. Churches are sending us a lot of guys. And they send us guys who are mostly really troubled. Marital problems, addictions, and things. Because churches don't have, in many cases, the staff and the provision to do that. And I'm thrilled and I'm very grateful that they trust us to do that. Men here are being held accountable. They're being mentored. They're being able to finally accept constructive criticism. I want to especially talk about our addiction groups. Also, we call it Ashes to Beauty, led by Skip Fair and Patrick Schoenbachler. Skip's not here today, but Patrick is. Patrick, would you stand so everybody can see you again? You know, we talk about this a lot, but statistics, 60 to 80% of the guys in this very room are not just watching, but they're addicted to pornography. All I'll say about that today is it's a very successful ministry. Don't wait until your family finds out your secret and you lose your family. Happens all the time. We've had a lot of physical healings. I'm really thrilled. I don't play golf, but I love our golf ministry. Gail, stand up. You do such a remarkable job. This is Gail Maupin, guys. You probably don't recognize Gail without his wife Peggy Sue next to him, and they've done such a great job. They're playing their scramble tournament tomorrow, and it's sold out as usual, and it's just so great. They're bringing guys also who are not believers together to play. Men aren't walking alone anymore. We have the breakfast club where guys, even with if not one of the leaders can go, they go to the Village Inn and have breakfast. We rewrote the mission statement in 2021, and now we've added one more thing to that. So let's put up, Danny, our new challenge coin, which I showed you. On the bottom right of the new challenge coin, which came out just a couple of weeks ago, because we went through our first 200 of those so quickly last year. And I decided for this year, we're stepping up. We're going to be warriors for Christ. We're going to be warriors for Christ at home. We're going to be warriors for Christ at our workplace and in our community. Time is short, guys. You know, just being transparent with you and caring about you the way I do. I had obviously a close brush with death this year, and more and more I knew when I was in there that God had me protected, but I knew time is short. And that's why we need to be warriors for Christ. It's no time to be playing around anymore. Think of our kids. You know, I wonder why we don't see a lot of young men in here, but think about it. So many young men today are up till the wee hours of the morning playing video games. Their minds are just destroyed by this stuff. This is a challenge to all of us as fathers. Train up these kids in the way they should go, and when they get old, they won't depart from it. They need to be in here, learning from you guys, and us learning from them what's making that generation tick. But that's really, really, really critical. If any of you have some victories you'd like to share as a result of ISI, we have a testimony link that was there. You send it to me, I'll put it on testimonies. You can talk about it here. So where are we going for 2022? We're going to keep within the mission statement. Because when you venture outside of your mission statement, you get in trouble. And it's worked very, very well. We've made minor refinements, as I told you, but we've now talked about being warriors for Christ. You know, when we carry the wristband on our hand, or you carry that challenge coin in your pocket, and you're having a really tough day, you're being challenged, you just go like this. Yeah, God's with me. God's always with me. I'm never alone anymore. And I have men I can call. Just one or two more quick things. I believe everybody needs ministry in addition to ISI. And a ministry can be anything. It can be helping a sick neighbor. It can be all kinds of different stuff. So the question I have for you is, where are you going in your life, in your ministry? You have ISI as your ministry. It's already done for you. You don't have to find speakers. You don't have to find a location. You don't have to find coffee. You don't have to find any of that stuff. All you have to do is bring another man and sharpen him the way you've been sharpened. So that's a good answer to where are you going this year. Are you bold in sharing the good news of Jesus and iron sharpens iron? Are you too shy? Well, out of love, I say to you, was he shy in dying on the cross for you and your family? So we got a lot to do. I want to thank, obviously, the Lord Jesus. I never thought this would be my life. And just so grateful every day. Grateful to Discovery Point Church, the dedicated servants council members, all the guys past and present. The Bible study guys, Dave Bowman and Jim that lead the Bible study, you guys do a remarkable job, an organized job. Men love coming. I had a man say to me this week, I felt very inferior coming to the Bible studies because I don't know much. And I have guys that won't come because they think they don't know much. We're all works in progress. And no one ever feels out of place there. I'm grateful for the Bible study. I'm grateful for our small group supervisors that we're going to break into a little bit. And those are Mark Sims, Larry Trigg, Dave Blakesley, and Scotty Lehman. So they keep everybody organized in that. We have 24 small group leaders. They're not all here every week, but we appreciate them very much. So to all you guys for your support and contributions, just incredibly grateful. The ministry is really, really, really doing well. We've been so blessed in a time of crisis in our country, and I just want to thank you all. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you. So Can you see the hair standing up on my arm? The Lord, man. The Lord is everything. The Lord is everything. So we're going to go in our small groups today. No more than 5. Feel free to get coffee or go to the bathroom. And there's only 2 questions that are going to be up there today. And there they are. What is your current fitness and nutrition plan? And you talk about that. And what are you going to do to grow the kingdom in 2022? How are you going to do that? Talk about it. Give each other ideas. You'll have plenty of time today to talk. So just want to pray for you one more time. Lord, thank you for the words today. They're all yours, not mine. Bless each man here with the ability to move forward for you, being the best he can possibly be. We can do all things through you, who strengthens us, Lord. Keep us in humility. It's in your precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. Small groups, guys. Let's go. Thank you.